covenant with me. And you come under covenant with God. Look at what the Bible says. He says, listen to this. How do we get under covenant? Isaiah says, well, here's how you get under covenant. Notice what the Bible says in verses 6 and 7. The Bible says, our verse we read this morning says, seek the Lord while he may be found. Well, what does that mean, Pastor? What does it mean? You have to return to God. This is what God is saying. You have to return to God in the way you live and the way you think. Notice what he says in the text. Seek the Lord while he may be found. There is coming a day of judgment, and you won't be able to see God. He says, but right now, you have an open door invitation to come to God. But there is coming a day when God shall return as judge of the living as well as the dead. And it won't be no time to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. That time will have expired. That time to live under covenant with God will be gone. So he says, while the opportunity, while the preacher is preaching, while the church doors are open, while people are inviting you to come to Jesus, you better seek the Lord out while he may be found. And I can tell you right now, if you need God now, you can find him. If you need God in your life, you can have him right now. This is what Isaiah is saying. Isaiah is saying, don't you hear the Lord pleading with you to come under covenant? Now you can ignore it all you want to. You can sit there with your arrogant self. You can sit there as if you got it all together. But when judgment comes, and you have to stand before God, every nation is going to have to stand before God. Every man, woman, boy, and girl is going to have to give an account for the life you have lived. God is going to say to you, I breathed my breath into you, and what did you do with it? You walked away from me. Or you can tell God, no, Lord, I sought you, and I found you. And I came under covenant. I didn't just join a church. I live under covenant. That means I got a contract with God. You know, in the NFL and in the NBA, you know, they're always telling you how big the contracts are that NBA players and NFL players have. They are under contract. They have certain contractual obligations that they got to carry out. They got to play so many games. They got to win so many games. They get bonuses if they go to the playoffs. They get bonuses if they do this and that because they're under contract. But then there comes a point in the time where they become a free agent and then they can get under contract with another team. Can I help you here? Because when you've been under contract with the devil, God tell your neighbor, I'm a free agent now. I got to get under contract with God. I can't stand the contract with the devil. You can't live out two contracts. You can't play for the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers at the same time. You can't live for God and live for the devil at the same time. But God says this is the way to have an abundant life. Now, who doesn't want to be blessed? Who wants burdens? Who want to be broke? Who wants problems? Who wants it? Nobody. God is saying, I'm giving you an invitation to come under me. He says, seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him. Look at the text. While he is near, turn to the Lord. In other words, how do you get to the Lord? You turn to the Lord in prayer. And you call on the Lord in prayer. That's how you turn to the Lord. And we began to teach you how to pray and teach you how to talk to the Lord and just reverence the Lord in prayer. And you don't have to have all of the perfect words that you need, but there are plenty of prayers in the Bible. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us, that salvation, from all evil. King James adds, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. You know, you just got to come under God. And see, you turn to God in prayer. And I don't care what you're going through in your life and what's happening in your life, the moment God knows you are sincere in prayer, that's how you turn. Oh, you don't have to pray like all of my prayer warriors here. They can pray for hours at a time. They built that up. But if you can say, Lord, hear my prayer. I need you right now. I don't have all the perfect words, God, but you know, there's some things going on in my life. I need you now. I'm just calling on you, and I don't even know how to talk to you right, but I just need you now. I need some direction. I need some guidance. I need some doors open. I need you to help me get out of the situation. All you got to do is just talk to God from a sincere heart. And when you talk to God from a sincere heart, that turns the heart of God towards you. So you come to God pretentious and you come to God with big words. God ain't gonna listen to that. When you say, look, I ain't got nowhere else to go. Lord, you here. If you don't help me, if you don't open this door, I ain't got no other way to go. If you don't guide me, I'm gonna be lost. If you don't give me wisdom, I'll act like a fool. Lord, help me. Is there anybody up in here who got a sincere heart to just turn to the Lord? When you turn to the Lord with a sincere heart, God is gonna hear your prayer. That's what he says. But notice what he says in the text. He says, let the wicked, part of the covenant agreement, forsake their ways. See, we have to come under covenant with God. I got to forsake my wicked ways. He says, get rid of your wicked ways and the unrighteous, their thoughts. See, because you know, all sin starts in your thinking. Stinking thinking leads to stinking actions. And when those stinking thoughts come in your head, you got to say that's unrighteous. Even though ain't nobody going to see me, it's unrighteous. Even though somebody telling me to do this, that ain't the right way, because I'm under covenant with God. And because I'm under covenant with God, I've got to, part of the agreement is that I forsake wicked ways. What's part of my covenant agreement is that I forsake unrighteous thoughts. I don't try to fool God and then just say I'm sorry. I think I was talking about this Wednesday in the Word. You know, you can't just keep telling God you're sorry. See, because if I slap you in your face and tell you, I'm sorry, then I slap you again. I'm sorry. I slap you again. I'm sorry. Then I backslap you. Oh, I'm really sorry. Then I slap you with two hands. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're not gonna accept that. And that's the same way God is. God saying, look, you gotta come out of those ways. I know you're gonna have to pack up some clothes. Maybe get your own place. But you got to forsake some evil ways. I know you may not get this much money on your refund because you ain't got that many kids this time. But you're going to have to forsake your ways. And when you forsake your ways, see, God watches that. That's what he watches. He watches and says, he ain't moved yet. He ain't did nothing to bless you yet, but he watching you. He ain't opened no new doors yet, but he watching you. He said, look at her, she'd rather suffer and be righteous. than try to be making a deal and be unrighteous. He watches you. Notice what he says in the text. And let them return to the Lord, that he may have mercy on them. So the first thing Isaiah is saying, that abundant mercy comes to our God. Look at God. For our God, for he will abundantly pardon. He is, in other words, when you turn to God in a sincere way, God is quick to give you mercy. And then here's the part I like in the text. He says in verses 8 and 9, he says, how can God do this? Isaiah says God can do this because God's ways are not like ours. Look what he says in verse 8 and 9. He says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. The way you think, I don't think. The way you would have worked it out, I wouldn't work it out that way. The way you think it's going to work out, I don't work things out that way because I don't think like you. He says, I have unlimited resources. I have an infinite mind, and I can see stuff you can't see. So I got ways you don't even know about yet. I got ways to work stuff out in your life that you don't even realize. See, because with your limited thinking, you're limited by your finances and by your intellectual, but God says, I ain't limited by that. He says, because I got ways you can't even see yet. He says, but my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways. Look what he says. For as high as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways. What is God saying? God's saying, my righteous ways are much more higher than human ways. Human ways are wicked. Human ways are evil. Human ways will cut you down. Human people will come back and try to get what they gave you once they gave it to you. But God says, my ways are not like that. He says, watch this. He says, and my thoughts are not you. I don't think the way you think. So you in a jam. Here you go, thinking your way out of it. You got a situation. Here you go, trying to figure it out. God said, I don't even think like you. I seen that thinking you was doing. He's like, that ain't even the way. That's why you gotta come to me. He said, when you turn to me, I'll show you ways you ain't even thought of yet. I'll give you thoughts you never thought of before, because I don't think like you. See, what you got to trust right there in that particular situation, you got to trust God's thinking is better than my thinking. You know what? That's when you turn the situations over to God. When you turn things over to God, you tell God, look, God, look here, God. Here's how I was thinking. You know, this is what I was thinking I should have did. What you think about it? Because if I tell God that, you know, if I surrender myself to God and I say, God, what you think about this? Because I was thinking, you know, I was thinking I should quit this job. This is what I was thinking. And then I was thinking I was going to go back to school. Here's what I'm thinking. This is what I'm thinking. What you think? See, people act like they don't have no thoughts. You got some thoughts. But see, what people try to do, they try to make their thinking God's thinking. Then they coming back to you out, the Lord has showed me, the Lord has told me, the Lord has. No, that's your thinking. Just go to God in prayer and tell God, look, here's how I'm thinking about this. I got some financial situations, God. Here's what I was thinking. Here's how I was thinking about working it out. See, if you go to God like that, instead of trying to act like God told you something, then God will really start to show you some ways. See, I don't pray on that, God, what you think. I be like, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I was thinking about doing. God, here's what I was thinking about saying. Here's what I was thinking about. What you think? And God be like, that first idea you had stinks. That second idea is stupid. And that third idea ain't gonna work at all. I'd be like, okay, cool, okay. All right, so here's what I should do. You see, when I give God the privilege to change my thinking. Not trying to put God over my thinking. Trying to make it like God told me this. Because you hear a whole lot of believers telling you what the Lord said. Don't you? That's their thinking. They're just trying to put God's approval on them. See, because sometimes their thinking is not God's way. And God don't want you short. God knows you got to pay your bills. God knows you need gas in your car. God knows you got to eat. God knows all these things. And some things I hear people telling me God told them. I'd be like, I think you need to pray a little bit longer. And here's what you need to do. You need to go back, because we can oftentimes get so spiritual that we can make things look like it's God, and it's got the sound the Lord has spoken to you. Here's what the Lord told me.